Hello and welcome to Web Learning where knowledge is shared. Today it's going to be a bit of a different video. This is a generator that I got from a doctor that bought it for camping, but he never used it. So it has 0 hours on it. It was left for a few years in the shed and then he wanted to sell it and I bought it as is without even knowing if it works or not. I got it going. I cleaned it a bit. I replaced the battery and I'll show you later. And today it's going to be a bit of a different video because I want to do a few modifications to this generator. And before I do them, I thought of maybe talking about them and hearing what you guys have to say about them, and maybe take that route instead of just me showing all the changes that I did. So I'll show you all the things that I thought of and what worked or what I'm thinking of will work and what will not work. Today I'm doing it outside, so there's going to be a bit of a noise. It's a bit windy also, and I'm using also a new wireless microphone, so hopefully you hear me quite well. So I'll start from the back. In the back there was a battery, lead acid battery that wasn't working anymore. I replaced it with this LiFePro4 battery that I wanted to use it for a different project. It's a nice one because there is this little button that if I click I can see how much the battery is charged. It's just a minute, I'll show you. You can see there are three LEDs turning on when I'm using it. My issue with this setup, I don't have a problem with the battery. It works quite well. I used O-ring to hold it in place, and as you can see it tore, so I place it now with a different O-ring. There's this lip also in the back that I can use it to tie the battery. The battery is smaller, so I put some sponges to the right and to the left so it won't wiggle around. My only issue is that it's just on the output of this vent of the alternator. Yeah, it's causing a lot of heat, and it's straight to this battery, and those batteries don't like really heat coming out to them. So I'm thinking of maybe moving it a bit to the left. I don't know. What do you think? Under the video I'm going to leave different sections that I'm going to talk about, and I would appreciate if you put all your comments in the same place, so it will be easier for all of us to read the comments for each section of the issue that I'm talking about. So that's the battery compartment. I put some conductive grease so it won't have any rust, and it works quite well. In the front there is this 7 segment right here. There was this sticker that completely broke and dried out, so I made another sticker using PowerPoint, and I laminated the paper, so it should fit quite well in this area like that. The only thing I need to do now is to stick it using some glue. The plugs are European plugs. It's hard to see, hold on. So those are European plugs. There is the switch and the pilot lamp, DC fuse, and the circuit breaker. And this is a DC 12 volt 8 amp output. For the power outputs I made these plugs that fit my local country socket. I took some old regular cables that came with some devices, you know, and they fit the European plug, and I made 2 of them just to fit here. What else? This one shows you the voltage, the hertz, and how many hours the generator work. I'm thinking of replacing it with this one. This one you connect it to the 220, if I remember right. It doesn't say on this box. And then it gives you the also amps. I mean, you just need to wire the cables through here, and then you can see how many amps it draws also. So it gives you voltage, hertz, current, and how many hours by clicking this button. I leave a link in the description for all those stuff I bought. And this should fit here instead of this one. The only problem I need to think is how to cover the hole here, because it's much bigger than this little guy. So if you have any ideas on how to cover this and to make it nice, I'll appreciate that. The key for the generator, I tied it here to like this type of a spring, and it's tied with a zip tie. When I bought it, the key was already in the switch, and I'm afraid that when you move it around it can break, also with these. So I got this little pouch also. It has some you can take it out, and most likely I'll put it up in the front or here in the back like this, and I'll put all the stuff, all the cables, I'll put them right in here. I made this. You know, I love the XT60, so I made this connector that I can fit them right here, and either plug battery and charge it straight from the 12 volt, or connect the XT60, and I made those clamps to charge other batteries or something. I also bought this for the spark plug. So if I need to take the spark plug when I'm away and I'm need to do something, I can do that. And I got another O-ring for the battery if it will tear. Something else that I got, I'll leave also a picture right here. This is AC current or overcurrent protection with 12 volt. What I'm thinking of doing this is to connect the 12 volt that I have in here and pass also the current that comes out to here, and see if I'm drawing any current from those outputs or not. Now, if I'm not drawing anything, this generator doesn't have an idle circuit, so I'm thinking of doing a small PCB, maybe 555 or something to control a servo, and I'll explain in a minute why, to push the gas rod into the idle state. If there is any current being pulled, it will automatically release the servo and the idle will stop and the generator will speed up. Let's go to the front. Well, there isn't much to see. The generator is okay. That's how I leave the key. And there are those two handles that I can pull them or sew them away. The gas tank plastic was really terrible. I couldn't see anything inside. Now the fuel system. I also looked inside with a small camera borescope that I have. I'll show it to you now. Now it's in the off position. It's really important when you store the generator to close this off completely, and also to drain the fuel tank. Don't leave the gas inside the fuel tank. One of the things I'm thinking of, maybe there is a filter here, a small one, but I'm thinking of maybe adding another fuel filter right here. One of my thoughts, when you want to drain the gas from the tank, you need to take this hose out or open this, and this one has a mesh inside that's really difficult to put it back in. One of my thoughts, I got this and I'm thinking of putting it like that inside the hose, between the hose. You can close this and open this one, so fuel will move from here into the gas tank, and you can open this one and gas will flow out when you want to drain the gas tank. One of the things that I've seen also on YouTube, there was a guy that connected a butane gas directly into the fuel line. So I'm going to try that by closing this valve and putting in butane to run the generator. I'll leave also a link to that video. The problem with that solution is that the butane will always run. You need to go and shut it off. One of my thoughts was to have a 12 volt solenoid, I'll leave a picture also, and to run it from the 12 volt that you have from the generator. So at the beginning you have a switch to override the solenoid to put some butane into the carburetor and into the engine, and when it starts, the 12 volt starts, and then it will keep the solenoid always on. If something happens, the generator will die, the 12 volt solenoid will close, and there will be no more gas running into the engine, and there is nothing to worry about. So that's one of my thoughts of putting this. Well, most likely I'm not going to use the butane because I'm going to show you in a minute why. So that's what I'm thinking of doing with this. So this is the carburetor. One of my thoughts was to use a servo to push this rod into the idle state when there is no current running. I have this type of a servo, this little one, and I have this big one also. This one, I think it's up to half a kilo, but I think the little one should be enough, because you don't need a lot of strength to push this gas into position. One of my thoughts also is to use another servo for the choke. Again, also this one doesn't need a lot of strength to move it. Putting two of these together, hooking them somehow in the back here, and controlling them either through a microcontroller or maybe 555 or something else. One of the videos that I've seen online, there was a guy that used this. This is used for opening and closing door locks. It's a 12 volt device. I've seen the guy using a spring, and then when this is for the choke. So the guy used the spring, and when the generator turns on, the 12 volt pulls the choke back. I got this and because I wanted to make sure that my thoughts were correct, and they are, and that's the fact that those type of solenoids, they take a lot of current. I mean, from what I measured, it's about 4 amps with 12 volts. That's almost 50 watts that this thing is taking. Now, I don't have a problem with the current. The thing is that the 40 watts are going somewhere, or the 50 watts are going somewhere, and that's heat. And most likely those things are not built to be on the whole time. And that means that if you run it constantly, they'll burn up really quickly. Another way to control them is something called an H bridge, but that means I need the microcontroller and I need something that switches the polarity of those wires. So at the beginning it will push the choke out. It will push the choke out, and then after the engine starts, it will reverse the polarity of the wires and it will pull it in. But again, that needs a lot of current and it's a little bit more complicated. Using a servo, they're really cheap, they're easy to get, and I think they should do the job quite well. Those ones turn 180 degrees, so that shouldn't be a problem to push this, also the choke and the gas to where I want it. This hose is the feedback from the head of the motor into the air intake. So if there are any gases from the oil, they go back and the engine takes them. I've seen one guy using this input for the butane gas, but I saw the other guy using it directly to the carburetor, and I think it's better because now the hose is left open and all the gases are not going back into the engine. It doesn't really matter, but I'm thinking of using the carburetor. It's a better idea than putting it right here. This is the float bowl, and this bolt is to drain the gas from the bowl itself. If you're going to put the generator for a long time, as I said, you need to remove all the gas from the tank, you need to empty the bowl, and you need to put some oil inside the cylinder head and crank it a few times. It will be oily inside the cylinder head and it won't get stuck or anything like that. When I was looking around to see how can I run this generator from butane, I came across this thing. This is a clone carburetor that fits this engine, and it has also this thing for butane gas. So the way it works is that it's a regular carburetor, it's a dual fuel carburetor for regular fuel and butane gas. There is, you replace it, you take that one out, you can see it's the same carburetor. You take this out, the old one out, you put this one in. Then you hook up the gas and it can run from gas. If you want to empty the float bowl, then if you see here, there is this hose from the float bowl, and there is this one, this lever that you can open, and it immediately empties the float bowl because it's really important if you want to run it from gas. Then there is this hookup for the butane gas, and there is this button. Before you start the engine, you press it for a second or two, and then you have some butane gas into the carburetor and the engine can start. I think this is to control how much butane gas you put into the engine. It doesn't move now. I think you need to open this screw right here, and then you need to set it and then close it back. I'm not going to change anything. I'm going to test it and see how it works. So that's really cool, and it didn't cost a lot. I think it cost me like $20 US from AliExpress. I'll leave a link below. And I think this is really cool. It can go right here really nicely. It fits, and it can run on butane gas. It also comes with everything that you need, including the fuel tank, hose, and everything. So that's really nice, and it saves the servo and all the electronics that you need to run if you want to run it on butane gas. So I'll give that a try also. The last thing I want to think about is this generator makes a lot of noise. So what I'm thinking is maybe covering most of it up and putting like a duct into the fan here that draws all the air. And this should, I think, will enable all the air suction from here, cold air. It will run through the generator to cool it down, and will exit in the back. So that's what I'm thinking. I'm not sure if it will work. That's everything that I have in mind. I would love to hear your thoughts about this, and I'll of course record me replacing the carburetor. I'll test also how it works on a running from butane directly from this carburetor before I replace it. And I'm thinking of also making a test with the smaller tanks, the 180 gram butane tanks, to see how long it runs on butane and figure out how long I can run this generator out of butane gas. That's it. Thank you for joining me. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not a subscriber. And thank you to my patrons that help me with buying the stuff that I need to do those things. Bye.